The smoke still rises from the wreckage as reporters gather around Daredevil, stunned by his words. He admits that he accidentally killed a man and is surrendering to the police. Some reporters turn their attention to Fisk, asking if the mayor had been working alongside Daredevil in the battle. Fisk denies it, saying he only fought to defend his city. I was simply fighting for our city. Daredevil is a murderer who thinks he's a hero. He will face justice. Turning to the officers nearby, he orders them to arrest Daredevil. The police hesitate until Cole steps forward and points instead at the Owl, demanding his arrest as the true criminal. The Owl argues back, claiming he was only defending himself in a war zone full of superheroes. As some cops begin to move him away, Izzy Libris forces her way through and accuses the Owl of murdering her son. He replies coldly that she has no proof, explaining that he planted a recorder in her son's jacket and sent the cops to her home. He smirks that both her son and she are as good as dead. She screams at him, leaving the Owl visibly shaken. Cole stays planted in front of Daredevil, trying to hold back the approaching officers, but Daredevil reaches out and places a calm hand on his shoulder, letting him know with a steady tone that everything is fine and that Cole should be the one to take him in. After a short, tense moment, Cole gives a slow nod, slips the cuffs around his wrists, and starts leading him away. Soon after, the car is moving toward the precinct, the city sliding past outside as Cole keeps glancing at Daredevil in the rearview mirror, questioning how he intends to get out of this situation. Daredevil answers quietly, making it clear that he doesn't plan to escape at all, and that he wants Cole to be the one to deliver him to justice. Cole warns him that the system is waiting to make an example out of him, and the punishment will be brutal. But they'll destroy you. The punishment won't fit the... Before anything else can be said, a car suddenly cuts across their path. Cole slams the brakes, leaps out with his gun drawn, only to see Foggy stepping out with his hands raised, identifying himself as Daredevil's lawyer. Cole narrows his eyes but gives him 2 minutes. Foggy hurries to Matt's side, lowering his voice so only Matt can hear, telling him that surrendering like this will not send Daredevil to prison but Matt Murdock, and that exposing his identity will put everyone he loves in danger. He admits he can't change Matt's decision to turn himself in, but insists there's a better way waiting if Matt will trust him. A short while later, Foggy and Cole enter the district attorney's office. The DA greets Foggy warmly until he realizes Foggy is representing Daredevil. Foggy states firmly that his client will only surrender under one condition. At the same time, Matt slips back into his apartment through the skylight. The moment he lands, he senses someone waiting for him. Spider-Man steps forward, reminding him of his promise. If Daredevil put on the mask again, he would return to take him in. Matt shakes his head and begins changing into his uniform. He tells Spider-Man that Hell's Kitchen had been burning and he saved it. Now he's already decided to turn himself in, so Spider-Man is too late. Hell's Kitchen was on fire. I saved it. And you're too late again. I'm already turning myself in. Fully suited up, Daredevil tightens the wraps on his fists and tells Spider-Man bluntly that he is not his moral authority. He reminds him that Spider-Man has also put people in the hospital and orders him to leave before he calls the police. He drops into a fighting stance, daring him to stay. Spider-Man studies him for a moment, then climbs back out the skylight, warning that if he is lying, he will be back. Matt collapses into a chair after he leaves, unsure if he even had the strength to fight. His phone buzzes, and Foggy's voice tells him that the deal has been confirmed. Matt nods, hangs up, and returns to the rooftop. Looking out at the city, he feels relief that he gets to end things his own way. With that, he leaps into the night as Daredevil once again. Later, Daredevil walks into the district attorney's office with Cole and Foggy at his side. The DA lets them in, but immediately requests to speak with the masked vigilante alone. Daredevil steps into the office, offering thanks for agreeing to the deal, but the DA halts him with a raised hand and comes out from behind his desk. He notes Foggy's reputation as a skilled lawyer and reminds Daredevil that the Supreme Court's ruling now allows masked heroes to testify without exposing their identities, a precedent that should also extend to standing trial. Daredevil acknowledges this silently, Yet the DA's expression hardens as he explains that he personally disagrees with the ruling. Moving closer until they are face to face, he makes it clear that he needs to know the person behind the mask. The deal can move forward only if Daredevil reveals his identity. The DA emphasizes that the public does not need to learn the truth, but he himself cannot allow the case to proceed without knowing who is truly standing before him. Matt nods, respecting the DA's demand, and removes his mask, revealing himself as the man he once worked for. Rage flashes across the DA's face, and he strikes Matt Murdock across the cheek. You worked for me, for this office, prosecuting and... Matt stammers out an apology, but the DA is too furious to listen. He realizes that if Matt's identity were exposed, every case he ever touched could be undone. Snapping at him to cover his face, he growls that he doesn't even want to look at him. Calling for the waiting officers, he orders them to arrest the murderer. Soon after, Daredevil is marched through the station. His mugshot is taken, and he's led to be fingerprinted. Foggy quickly steps in, insisting that his client's identity must remain protected to safeguard the lives of those he cares about. The officers grumble, but ultimately let him pass without fingerprints. Foggy keeps pushing back against their protests, but Daredevil stops him, allowing the cuffs to be secured so he can be escorted to arraignment. Outside, the crowd of reporters swarms, but Daredevil remains silent as he's rushed past. In court, Matt stands quietly, content with the results so far. The prosecutor turns out to be an old law school acquaintance, someone Foggy always outperformed. The judge has every reason to consider granting bail, but she doesn't. The gavel drops, and later Matt and Foggy are on a rooftop. Foggy laughs that it must be the first time a defendant has ever left through the roof. Matt thanks him sincerely, pulling him into a hug. Surprised at first, Foggy smiles and pats his friend's back, assuring him that everything will be fine. Matt nods, telling him he'll make sure of it before leaping away, ignoring Foggy's calls to focus on building their defense. With a sigh, Foggy reaches for his phone to check with their teammate, asking if she's still flying in, because they'll need her. Matt knows his friend is right. They need to prepare for the trial, but he also feels he has to ensure Hell's Kitchen will be safe without him. That night, he heads to the docks to meet an ally, only to stumble upon a weapons deal. Without hesitation, he leaps into action, his billy club snapping a gun from one thug's grip. He kicks another's weapon away, then spins around, snapping handcuffs onto two men and locking them together at the legs. Moving with precision, he wrestles a punch aside, twisting the man's arm until he can choke him. Growling into the thug's ear, he tells him to be better when he wakes up. The man collapses unconscious in his hold. A voice cuts through the night with mocking humor. "So, this is the new Daredevil." It's Tony Stark, drifting down in his armor. Iron Man lands, teasing Daredevil for playing motivational speaker, saying it's been a long time since he joined a street-level hero in stopping an old-fashioned crime. He informs Daredevil he already called the police, then casually destroys the crate of weapons with a blast. Suggesting they leave the creepy wharf, he adds that men like them deserve classier surroundings. At the same time, Wilson Fisk steps into Mary's church, his massive frame pausing in the doorway when he realizes she hasn't left. Typhoid Mary sits calmly at the altar, her expression unreadable, while a priest kneels beside her with a noose tight around his neck, whispering desperate pleas for help. A faint, wicked smile curls across Mary's lips as she tells Fisk this church is the home he once gave her. She confesses she feels more anger toward the priest than toward him, because the priest sold her out for money, while Fisk's betrayals had at least been rooted in a twisted kind of love. Straightening her back with quiet resolve, she rises from the altar and starts toward the door. She admits she doesn't fully understand what has just unfolded inside the church, but a rare calm tells her she is more in control than she has been in years. Before stepping out, she turns back toward Fisk, her voice soft but sharp, as she promises she will be in touch and calls him Big Man, then disappears into the night beyond the door. Back with Tony, he offers Daredevil a non-alcoholic drink. Daredevil declines, and the two discuss what comes next and Matt's choice to surrender. Finally, Matt explains the real reason he wanted to meet. He asks Tony to buy Hell's Kitchen out from under the Stromwinds. Tony is taken aback, staring at him in disbelief. Daredevil explains that the Stromwinds are only after profit, but if Tony purchased the properties, rented them cheaply to the residents, and eventually sold the buildings back at affordable prices, it would cut the billionaires off. Tony paces, shocked at the idea. He repeats it back. Daredevil wants him to lose money just to stop other wealthy players? That's crazy. Daredevil insists it's the right thing to do. You save the planet. People need to live on the planet. I'm not saying you're not a hero, Tony, just that there's so much more you can do. After a long pause and more conversation, Tony then admits and adds, "Okay, I'll think about it." Back at his office, Wilson Fisk speaks on the phone with Izzy Libris, assuring her that the owl will remain locked up after kidnapping her granddaughter and murdering her son. He suggests holding a meeting in 2 days and asks if he can count on her presence. Izzy agrees, and they end the call. Fisk then turns to Wesley, ordering him to arrange for the meeting to take place at a bank and to reach out to his private investors. Meanwhile, Matt finally drags himself into Foggy's office, exhausted from his night. He slumps into a chair while Foggy scolds him for neglecting their legal defense. Matt tries to explain that he's been setting up protections in case he ends up in prison. Foggy relaxes slightly, sitting at his desk, and explains that the DA is pushing for first-degree murder. Their job will be to convince the jury that Daredevil didn't intend to kill the man, that it was a tragic accident during the attempted robbery. Matt suddenly stiffens, sensing someone in the hallway. He pulls his mask over his face and tells Foggy to get under the desk. But Foggy shakes his head and says he called for backup the moment Matt was arrested. He insists that she's the best, and Matt knows it. Matt's eyes widen when he recognizes the familiar perfume. He's stunned as Kirsten McDuffie, his ex, steps inside with a smile, greeting them with cheer. She joins in as they begin discussing defense strategy. Matt stays quiet, his thoughts drifting. He remembers how Kirsten had once forgotten his identity when the Purple Man's children erased the world's memories, how he broke off their relationship to protect her, and how she's the last person he wanted to see working on this case. Snapping him back, Kirsten waves her hand in front of his face and asks if he's listening. He sighs, claiming he's just tired, and suggests they call it a night. With 8 days until trial, burning out early won't help. Foggy agrees, packing his things. Kirsten decides to head back to her hotel to keep working. Once she leaves, Matt angrily demands to know why Foggy brought her in, reminding him that breaking up with her had been heartbreaking. Foggy snaps back, insisting Kirsten is the best lawyer they know and that they need all the help they can get. Shouting that Matt needs people, Foggy storms out as Matt leaps from the window into the night. Swinging across rooftops, Matt regrets raising his voice at Foggy. Pausing on a ledge, he hears a familiar voice. Elektra steps up beside him, calling him the world's dumbest superhero. Matt, clearly not in the mood, tells her to leave. She warns him again that if he goes to prison, countless lives will be lost because of his absence, calling his choice selfishness disguised as sacrifice. Matt glares, reminding her that she once used him to steal billions. Elektra shakes her head, saying she took the money for both of them. She explains that the hand has returned stronger than ever, and she needed the resources to fight back. She tells him she can't do it alone. It's what Stick trained them for. But Matt refuses, saying his neighborhood is in ruins, and that saving it is his priority. As he tries to leave, Elektra stops him and tells him about a meeting happening that very night. At that meeting, Fisk gathers New York's crime bosses in a bank. He apologizes for thinking they could work together without greed tearing them apart. Hammerhead, his skull still bandaged, interrupts to demand a better deal after the gang war. Fisk grabs his head and smashes it against the table again and again, each word he speaks punctuated by the brutal slam. Blood spills as Fisk adjusts his tie, declaring that the city needs a kingpin. But because his mayoral role prevents him from taking that title, he announces, "You will all treat Izzy as if she were me. As far as I'm concerned, Izzy Libris is the kingpin of New York City." Shocked, Izzy accepts the honor. Suddenly, The vault door is blown off its hinges. From the smoke, Daredevil steps forward, declaring that he will topple them all. Old Kingpin, new Kingpin, and anyone in between. Fisk warns him that property damage won't help his cause, but Daredevil ignores him, staring down the mob bosses. He promises them that even from prison, he'll be watching, listening, and making their lives miserable. One mobster calls out that from jail, Daredevil won't be able to stop the new Kingpin from running wild. Daredevil smirks and gestures behind him. But it's not just me, where Spider-Man emerges from the shadows. Without another word, Daredevil assures them all that the two of them are coming for every last one of them. He drops a flashbang, vanishing into the smoke. Later, on a rooftop, Spider-Man asks if Daredevil thinks the display worked. Daredevil nods, saying the theatrics and tearing down the vault door probably scared them. Spider-Man still wonders why Daredevil turned to him, knowing their friendship has been strained. Matt admits that since he's going away, he didn't want them ending on bad terms. Spider-Man explains that his harshness came from knowing Daredevil killed someone he once did too, and it haunted him. The two embrace, sharing their burdens before parting ways. The following morning, Daredevil makes his way back toward Foggy's office. The hallway is quiet, but his heightened senses pick up something out of place. A familiar voice and a heartbeat he hadn't expected Foggy to bring in. He pushes the door open and stops short, surprised to find Kirsten inside, her smile bright and assured as she announces that they finally have the dream team together. Behind the desk sits Matt Murdock himself, relaxed and confident. The blind lawyer tilts his head toward them with a grin, his presence radiating a mix of defiance and control, greeting Daredevil, Foggy, and Kirsten with a bold, almost playful energy that signals everything is about to change.